Everybody, and a very warm welcome back to episode 9 of the new Sandling Junction build. And in this episode I've got an awful lot happening, so let's roll that intro and let's see what it's all about. Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome back. Now, as I said right at the start, there is an awful lot happening in this episode. How much I actually get done and into this video, really I do not know at this stage because I'm at the very start of it. But some of the things that I will be covering is changing the area of the harbour seam. I know I went through an awful lot to put it there, and you will see why and what I'm doing very shortly. And over there I've got the tops down and I'm starting to plan the upper section of the layout overall. I'm fitting some lights in the hidden fiddle yard. I've got to find some cameras with your help, and yeah, anything else I can think of as well. So without further ado then, let's get on and let's see what it's all about and see what happens. Okay, so I decided now where I was going to cut the harbour out. So I'm using my jigsaw to carefully go around the shape, and I plan on using the actual cutout section to become the basin or the bottom of the harbour. Not quite sure if that's going to work at all, but I think I'm going to have to use it as a template to cut an even bigger piece so that I can then support it later. Okay, so the harbour has been cut out. What I've got to do now is take this barrier off here and rebrace timbers through here, under here and under here, so it's fully supported. And then I'll have an open pit here which I can then line out. If I line this off here, I may have to cut another piece slightly bigger so that it actually comes out to here somewhere all the way around, so it hits on these. Okay, ready? Before I carry on and do anything over on that top layer over there to my left, I want to talk to you again about the harbour scene. Now, this has dominated the last two Sandling Junction videos, and it will continue to dominate them to some degree, and you'll find out why in a moment. Now, the thing is that when I put this on and corrected my mistakes with the holes underneath each of the points, that's all no problems whatsoever. I must thank everybody who really kindly gave me all the ideas to make this work and to give me the 3 tracks and everything as you see it, and it's all laid and it is all working by that one point properly. Now, the thing is, in the last video a couple of people mentioned that this is way too short to take an engine and 3 wagons. Now, of course I know that, and that was fairly obvious. It wasn't needed to be said, but the idea was that the wagons would be left here and the locomotive would either come off the head shunt, come through here and pick up those trains from somewhere or in front or wherever. It could then pick them up, take them out, and then the other loco can then reverse back up and into the head shunt. That's all well and good, and to a point it works, but you know me, guys and girls, I am not the world's best when it comes to understanding train movements and prototypical movements of shunting yards and anything else. I don't know anything about it. I simply put the track together, put some scenics around it, try to weather my trains as authentically as possible when I get the chance to, and literally play trains. And I don't confess to knowing anything about train movements and train operations and how trains are put together. So I have done it this way for the moment, but what I'm going to do, and I think I alluded to it in the last video, that I really wasn't happy about how much track is going down. And I feel that the whole of this area is just one massive track. Even when you consider that what's here going on behind here, only up here does it lessen. But this is a whole area of a platform, 2 platforms, and the double road through and the branch line ending. But here I've got so much more. So I had a long chat with Julian, and he tended to agree with my thoughts that there's just too much track. And I've got some very, very tight curves as well, which doesn't help the whole thing. So what we're going to do is, well, I've made a decision based on what we've talked about, and I'm ripping it all up. A lot of work and a hard lesson learned, but I've done it before in the old Sandling Junction when I've done a lot of work. It hasn't worked out and I've changed the whole thing. I'm going to be doing the same thing now before I go any further. I'm going to take this out, and it sort of comes through here somewhere out the way, make a gentle curve, and at some point it will split into just two lines coming down the side of the harbour. The harbour's been cut, but it may be that I cut a little bit more out. I still have that option, and I will put a head shunt in there if I needs to, or whatever. It may just be that we put two lines down and end the whole thing. So I have a wider curve coming around here into two lines that service the harbour, and then maybe a little head shunt here for a locomotive that's resident on site, and it will do some of the train movements. The idea being that I lessen the amount of track. I can put a little bit more infrastructure here in terms of harbour and buildings and other things. And let's face it, and I think somebody else pointed this out in a comment, this is a little harbour. It's a little fishing harbour. Folkestone is a little fishing harbour. And although this is not Folkestone, it's even smaller in terms of what I'm trying to portray. And so how many big fishing vessels are going to come here and warrant 3 lines of wagons? At best, it may be just 1 or 2 wagons in here pulling up, loading some fish up, and off it goes, or whatever it might be. So I feel that I've gone a little bit overkill, and I think that many of you will agree that although it works and it gives a little bit of operational sense to the layout, I think it's just too much. So, hi everybody, welcome back. Now I'm outside with a couple of the boards off the top, and one of the problems that I suddenly realized is that I didn't have enough space from here down to the track on the next layer, and in fact at this point here the top was coming over the track, and that wouldn't work at all. So in consultation with Julian, we decided that we'll probably take a slender section off of here, certainly the width of a piece of wood, and take it back a little bit so that we can then come back on here and then put an angle part across there which will traverse the lines concerned. Okay, so what I've got so far is I've put the 2 boards back in, and all I've got to do is take the remaining 2 posts out. There's also one down here, and these 2 have got to come out because they're obviously no longer valid or usable. And I've simply planed off a little bit off of each of the 2 joints, one there, and that all fits in really, really nicely. I'm quite pleased with that, the way it's gone. And I'll put the camera down here in a moment, show you the sort of gap that I've now got. Some of the track up here has had to change configuration because of it, and also potentially because I've had to re-site that lovely engine shed that James built me from Bexhill West, and that can't go anywhere else. I've looked at it over here and it really does not fit without taking some of it away, and I don't want to do that. I also need a clear run underneath to be allowing for the inspection pits and the lighting that James kindly put in for me. So that's where that's going to go, and it's meant a little rework on the top here, but nothing I think too drastic, and certainly too much of a problem. So this is all working. As I say, my next job will be to join certainly these 2 together and later on come this way with the next one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clamp each end, and then I'm going to put 2 wood screws in to join them properly. But then I'm going to drill 3 holes in for coach bolts, or not quite coach bolts, flush bolts with wing nuts on them, so that I can then join them together, tighten them up. The idea being that I can take the wood screws out, I'll have a permanent fixing all the time that I want to, and I can then remove the bolts should I need to take any of these sections out. And to do that, what I'm going to be doing is the same way as I used the connection on the old lift out section on the old Sandling Junction, and I'm going to put in sort of these solderable joints on each edge, so every track that crosses that point will have one of those on there, and the rail will be cut so that I can lift this one off, and yeah, just go with it and see what happens. The idea also is I want to leave the turntable flexible, so I can leave it in. It will not cause a problem. I can literally lift it out should I need to do so, and I can work on anything I need from that point of view there. So that's the next job. Okay, so if I start here with a bit of an angle there, we can bring that round quite nicely across the bridge, or girder bridge, won't be this fancy bridge, and taking those 2 bits of wood out. But you can see now we have a little bit more gap going on between the rail and the next section. Certainly enough to bring an infrastructure up, and maybe a little bit of a wall and up to the top level, and then some grass embankment above that. And here on this section here, if I can hold the camera steady enough, we're going to bring in a angle through here, which will allow a girder tunnel portal for the 3 lines that are going up there. And this one, if I can get my hand in the right place, can't find it. Come on, there you are. Okay, so errant finger. Right, so we can bring a tunnel portal this way a little bit on this one to allow that for that little line that goes underneath to the fiddle yard, and then this one will come in here. Somehow I'm going to make it work. I have to. I had a thought about taking this back a little bit, stepping it, so that we have, maybe we can bring a double tunnel portal back here somewhere, giving a bit more of a step relief. I'll talk to Julian about that. But there's also, if I do that, I lose the chance of putting a little bit of a scene diorama in this square. It's not going to be used for anything, but it could well be useful to break up some of the track work that's running up through here and give another look to that section when it comes to modeling some of the scenery. It's going through nicely because it's 8mm. There's only a 1/4 millimeter tolerance to that and the M8 on the thread, but I feel that that will tap back out, and I think that'll be fine. Okay, so I've done all of this, and these 3 boards are now flat and they are joined. Now, that said, I'm going to have to take this one off because I have got to deal with this track here at some point in the future. It's not joined, it's not glued down from about here, so I've got to bring it forward here to wherever I decide these points are going to be at some point in the future. But while I was under there, I checked all of this out, because the main reason for these being in segments, apart from getting them up the stairs, which obviously is a big factor, is to make it easy for me to get them on and off to do any work on. And yeah, with that in mind, they will still come off and they'll still be joined and cut through here. I think that's still a safe way of going. But I can do an awful lot of things like point motors, dropper wires from underneath. I mean, I've done the rest of this layout so far in that fashion, and the idea was to make this segmented, as I say, mainly to make it easier for me to get underneath and do it, or take them off and do them somewhere else and put them back on. And the more I think about it, the more that we've designed this, the more complex we've made this, I think the more out of reach that goal actually is, because once these are down, once they're screwed on, and I've done a bit of work on them, then to keep taking them up and down to do a little bit of scenic work here or there, I don't think is practical. What I will probably do is keep this accessible here, and just drop the turntable in place at different times until I'm really happy that all the scenery is done along the back there and I don't have to do any worrying about it. Then I can probably leave this in place and just carry on as normal. I'm still going to, as I say, still going to cut through the tracks through here, which any that come to this point, I'm going to cut through them. And I think that once it's all finished off, this is pretty much going to stay as a solid piece. Okay, so one of the next projects that I really have to concentrate on in the very near future is under here. Now I've got a 10-road hidden fiddle yard under there. Some of the roads are very small, they'll only take one locomotive, others will take a few carriages as well as a loco on the head of it. But I can't see what's under there easily at all, and I have no idea of what's sitting on the roads, what roads are occupied, which ones are not, and at the same time visibility under there is almost zero. And so what I've done is I've gone to one of our well-known auction websites, and I will put some details of these in there if anyone is interested. They are just a set of lights. Now you can buy these in combinations of between 1 and I think I've got 8 on this one, and I think the more you buy, they're a little bit more economical to use. And I bought the large amount because obviously these are manufactured for this, and if the LEDs go in time, I have a few spare ones I can just plug in place and carry on with. So that's why I bought 8 of them. But they have sticky backs, and you can put these on here, and you have a little transformer somewhere here that will take all of them, and I think there's even a little remote control to operate it. So what I'm going to do, under here there are several posts that hold these panels up where they should be. So on the faces of them I'm going to put the little discs, and I'm going to have lights under the whole of this area so I can at least see by looking what's there. What I need your help with this, you could, is recommend to me some inexpensive like reversing light cameras, reversing cameras sets. I need to get 2 or possibly 3 cameras under here, so on a 7 or 9 inch screen up on the wall here, so that I can actually see what roads are occupied, what trains are in what, and the lighting's done, but I haven't got a camera system, and I can only find extremely expensive options, and most of those are from China, which I'm sure most of them will be anyway. But anyone who's got any ideas or have bought into miniature reversing style cameras that you would have on cars or lorries for security and things like that, just something that I can then have maybe a split screen on the wall with 4 different little viewing options, and I can see exactly what's going on under there without having to peer down and get my hand in there and pull stuff out and wreck something. Okay, so I think you'll agree that we've got plenty of light under here now. There are 4 units, and I could move them around a little bit. In fact, this one is facing inwards. I could put another one facing that way on there, giving a little bit more light over the back there. But I'm not too worried if I do or I don't at the moment. I think there is certainly a lot more light than I had a little while ago, so I'm not unhappy with that. And all I do need now is some cameras, and certainly tidy up all these wires. So one job almost finished. Okay, so what I'm doing now is lifting the track and the cork from the harvesting that I've decided to change. I'm using an artist's spatula or a painting knife. Now this one I've actually never used for painting, but it does come in handy for this purpose. You just saw me lift a point off, and I used a long nosed pair of pliers to support the wire around the frog point, or where the frog wire joins the point itself. It is very, very fragile. Even here, I'm taking a lot of care lifting that track, because if you go too fast, you end up separating the sleepers from the track itself and wrecking the whole length. And you just have to take a lot of care. Here I'm doing the same amount of care, pushing and putting in the knife only where I know there are no wires or areas that could cause a problem. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there tonight. There's just the 3-way to lift and this section here, which will take about 5 minutes, but unfortunately I've run right out of time. I've got to get ready for a live stream on my painting channel very shortly, so I'm going to stop here, come back maybe tomorrow and lift all this off, get it all prepped and get some more cork down here, and start the whole process of the harbour one more time. We'll see how we go. Catch you all soon. Okay, so this is all cleared, the 3 ways up without any damage, and I have taken off all of the old copy decks from the top here. Now you'll see quite clearly that you do need a good rag, but you can see also that it will destroy said rag. It's quite aggressive, but it does come off very cleanly and does not destroy the cork. Only parts of cork destruction is if I get on an edge and go a little bit aggressive. That's not a problem, but overall you don't have to re-cork any of this. You can simply lift it all off, hoover up the mess, which I've done or will do. So with that said, let's go and get the hoover and clear up. Now in the previous video I did ask for ideas about a new hoover. I didn't think about this, but I went and bought myself one of these. Now I am a big fan of DeWalt, and they do a 18 volt in this country battered hoover, very similar to those commercial ones, but it's just a very robust tool with everything from a small bit to a top bit and everything in between, and even an extension hose. And I'm not selling this, I'm not getting anything from saying this, but ideally this can also be used as a dust extractor as well, because it's got a belt clip on, and this can attach to some of the tools and you can work with it and extract dust at the same time. Anyway, it's going to get a bit noisy. I'm going to have a tidy out, and then we're going to start looking at putting some fresh cork down on this side to match up with this, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I was going to leave this section in off of there, but actually it's not going to go where I want it, so I'm going to take this off as well. Okay, so I'm going to start looking at finding some cork for this area, and I think I'll probably take it up to about here this time, so that we'll bring a single line of cork through here, then hit onto this area, which will then put in our new design for the harbour entrance. So let's see how we get on. All right. Okay, so I'm now making a new jigsaw puzzle with cork, trying to splice it in and make the shapes as simple as possible. I want to sort of cork the whole of this area almost up to where the track branches off of the line. So that's what I'm measuring out, and I've got the odd little shape to cut in, trimming up and making sure everything is as it should be. Now I'm using my favorite copy decks to literally get everything down, a layer on the top of the board and a layer on the other cork itself. Now it's worth mentioning that before I did all this, where I'd lifted the old stuff off, I actually give it a good sanding before I commenced any cutting or gluing, so I had a lovely surface to work to. Now I'm just putting in bits of track just to see how it may be. I'm not using fresh track, I'm just using odd pieces of track to see how I may redesign this harbour area and make sure that it is what I want it to be moving forward. I'm not there yet, I'm just simply playing, and I will not be actually laying this yet, as I want to do the lift out section before I go much further. Okay, so what I done, or what I'm trying to play around with, and some would argue I should have left well alone, but I've moved this track out a little bit from where it was running through here, and hopefully that will give me a slightly softer curve into this point here. So the curvature is in here, and then we straighten up down this part alongside the harbour wall. And I need enough room here to allow for vehicles to access. All of this will be sort of street level buried, just the rail heads that will be shown, so vehicles can literally, if there's no traffic there, no train traffic, could quite literally drive across it. I'm not sure how that works in real life with points, but hopefully we can make that work as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is disengage these two bolts on here and take this piece out altogether for the moment, and I want to try and get these bits of cork laid in and up to this point here, and to that end I want to put those edges. You remember those types of pre-soldered joint plates that you can put the rail to and have soldered sleepers for the last 3 sleepers, so that it makes this area pretty rigid, pretty good. So that's the plan. Anyway, after that long delay, I'm going to take this piece off and put it out the way for a moment. Okay, so I've got this top section off and you can see the track now exposed. I'm going to move some of these storage boxes out the way so I can glue that all down and get it all set up so it's ready to come across this bridge. And those special rail joiners that we can do on here and here and then cut through. So I will literally lay 3 pieces of track on through here on this bridge section going off here, and then they will be connected, and then I'll just simply cut them through at the appropriate moment. I'm going to have to do something here. I'm not quite sure how this is all going to work, because the idea originally was to have arches. Well, that's not going to happen here. There's just not enough room. And here I was hoping that this would be in more, but it got too close to the other section here. Well, since then we've altered this and it's gone back a little bit. But here I can't do anything because of the way that the curvature of the track went, that it got very close to this side. So either I add something on to the face of this, which does cut down my walk-through space, or I've got to come up with a new idea on how to make this work. It may be that visually there may be a bit of a big span arch that comes down here, just lipping on here, but then literally when this is in place appears to come out again. That might work. I don't know yet. Okay, so the idea is that although the track back here is quite wide coming in from the curves, I do intend to make it a little bit closer together as it comes across here. So what that allows me for is to make sure that I've got the correct point spacing over on that side, which is really important. And in doing the track plan here, I will come across and I will do the first part of the track pan over the other side there, so I know that when I come across here and lay it down, that when I get to that point the points will actually fit where I need them to. Okay, I'm going to run this from 2 sides, but hopefully you can see something of what this is going to look like. So we have quite a complex set of points here. We have a double slit in there and a curve point here. I think that is best for the geometry going across here. And then we've got a standard point there. I could actually, if I wanted to bring this out, I could put, and I might try that, I could put in a curve point here just to bring that out a little bit and bring that in there. I think that actually would be better served. So I think that another slight adjustment. I'm going to put 2 curve points in there to the double slip, and hopefully that will bring this in nicely to here. We've got a curve onto the bridge, which is fine. So I've got to decide exactly how this is going to be, because what I want to do is I want to have one piece of track going across the whole thing. So I might use these to plan the track, draw where I want the cork to be, and then when it comes to, I'm going to lay one piece of track so it extends either side of this, being very, very careful when I do that, and then plan the rest of these bits out here and here, do that one, put it in place, and then I can literally cut through the track once it's all done. Okay, so this is exactly what I was talking about. These are the pre-etched sleepers that you can buy from DCC Concepts, and they are tightly cut to size, and I will use 3 there, 3 there, same the other end, and hopefully that will be sufficient to make sure that these tracks stay where I want them to, and less risk, as I've had in the past with the old Sandling Junction, of catching them and ripping them up. So this is going to lay as it is right now, and I'm going to keep crawling underneath until I've got it where I need it, and hopefully, yeah, we will see what happens. Catch you all very soon, I hope. Okay guys, well, so much for all the planning, the talk. Let's get some action going. The idea here is to quite literally set up the track behind me on that curve coming right up to the point of the lift out section. I also need to make sure that I have the correct distances and a slight curve on the lift out section itself. But what I'm actually planning to do is have an overlap of track on each side, and you'll see why later. I think it's going to work better for me to do that when it comes to having everything in place and putting those solderable sleepers in at the right point, so I have the ability to lift track out, or at least lift out the lift out section without damaging track. So now I'm just drawing out, ready to start putting droppers on and gluing the track down behind me. And there is enough cork here to traverse these sections so that we do have cork joining, and so when this is in place and the cork bits are down, it's not going to move anywhere until I decide to cut through, so long as I don't knock it. Alright, but I think we're good. So with all the planning and the measuring done, I needed to get this cork laid. So out comes the copy decks again, and I'm starting to bring the road beds up to the point of the lift out section itself. But I'm actually going to continue on. I'm going to bring that cork all the way through the lift out section. As you heard me say earlier, that I've made it overlap each end. So the idea being that this lift out section will actually remain in place until all the track is laid, all those extra sleepers soldered in, and then the whole thing will be cut through, allowing the lift out section to be removed for the first time. So it does mean to say that I am going to be doing a lot of crawling under the lift out section to play trains or do anything else, but I think it will be worth it in the long run. That's the plan, so let's hope that's what happens. Hi everyone, and a warm welcome back. Now I have cut the track here, ready to go in, and I'm going to apply the droppers on here, drill them through, and glue all this track down to this point here. I then have the track going all the way across here and extends beyond the lift out section by about 2 or 3 inches over on each end. So I think that's plenty to be able to add in these etched pieces from DCC Concepts, and each side like that, that and that. And before I do this piece though, I'm going to come up this way with a bit more cork, just to make sure that the curve coming out of the section in this area. So I just want to make sure that this area here swings out nicely past this wall without hitting anything and without looking a bit awkward. So before I actually get into this lift out section, as I say, I'm going to go back and I'm going to put the track in up to it, lead this section and continue the cork round, just making sure it is sound, and then I'm going to work on this lift out section and get that set up so that I can then come back in and not have to worry about it too much, because it'll all be done. Now, as I said earlier, or at least I think I said earlier, about the fact that by the time I come round with the figure of 8 loop, then the track here will be black to the back and red to the front, but when it comes up here, the track's going to be the opposite way round. So I will be installing a reverse loop module in here and isolating the whole of this lift out section, so it will be perfectly okay to do that, and it will all be hidden out underneath whatever scenics that I put onto this bridge section. With that all said and done, I do need to think about this area here, because once this is all cut off, over the other side it's not a problem, because the end of the lift out section is set right the way back off of the front of the layout. But here, this part here is the very edge of the layout, and this is where I walk past all the time. Now, I remember back in the days when I had the old Sandling Junction and the problems I had with the lift out section then, it was the fact that I kept catching the rail with a jumper or sleeve or something. Just a little bit of a careless close shave would catch it and could rip it out, and I did that several times. Even with the resulting etched pieces that I had put into the old Sandling Junction, I still damaged one of the rails on one occasion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this all set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally make a small section of timber to sit on here, and it's going to come down and lip over here, and I'm going to fix it, or at least have the ability with Velcro to fix it so that it will not move ordinarily unless I really give it a good tug. And then when I come to use the whole of the layout, I simply take it off, pull it off the Velcro, and I can then lay this section in and it will work normally. But it does mean to say that I do protect the ends of the rail when I'm moving around the layout without running the trains. Of course, this part here is essential, obviously, when I am running the train, so I will just simply put it out the way, take it off, put it out the way, run my trains. When I finish, lift this out, put that away, and then just put that little section over the top so that I do not damage any rail in the future. Okay, so here we go. The track has got to be laid down and it's all been cut. It is fresh track from this point on, and I have applied the dropper wires and drilled the holes to receive the dropper wires through the layout. So out with the Copytex again, and let's get this track laid. Now I am only going to bring the track and glue it down to the point just before the lift out section. If you remember, in the same way as I did with the cork bed, I'm making the track itself, and fortunately it's long enough to extend a little way over each side of the layout or of the lift out section. So that's the plan, and then once it's all dry, then I can start adding the track on that lift out section itself and add those special sleepers to protect it. Okay, so that's all done. That will be fine in the morning, and I can hook up the wires and make this all live as I want it. What I might just do for my own safety is just put in these, just put these tracks into the ends of these, just to make sure that these are where they should be. Job. Okay, so I'm going to swing the camera around now and start looking at this side. Okay, so now I'm turning my attention to the track work, which is quite complex on the other side of the lift out section. And the reason that I wanted to do that is to make sure that before I lay any cork, it is in the correct position. Otherwise I'm going to be ripping it up and starting again. I don't really want to do that. So that's why the track is laying across the lift out section, allowing me to connect track to it and to make sure the measurements are right and the geometry works. I've got to say that this is very complex. Just about where my hand is, the boards split and one goes up and one goes down, and I've got a lot of point work and a double slip to fit in there without hitting any timbers and before it hits that sort of split in the boards. Not easy, and it's taken me an awful long time, and it's given me 1 or 2 headaches. I've got to say, it's not as what I thought it was going to be. It's just taking time. Hey everybody, I think I've actually managed to work this out now. My problem was that I had a curve point in here, albeit there is a curve point on there. I may even change that. It may work with a shorter or a medium straight point. I'm not too sure. But, however, I think I've pretty much got it. There is a slight discrepancy on some of these. There is a bit of a bend out through that slip, but I'm not too worried. I think it's all going to work fine. It's just very, very close to timber work, and where joints are going across, I can't take this too much further that way, as much as I'd like to. I think that the cut in here where this starts to rise and this starts to go down will be too much for the point to contend with. And I could bring it all a little bit this way, but then I shorten and tighten this curve here, and I bring this quite close. There's timber work through here, and if I bring it back, I think the point motor would go in without a problem, but it is quite close. I may try it, I may see what happens, but I think other than that, that's all I can do to make this point work happen. Okay everybody, well, I'm going to call that a wrap for this video. It has already gone on way too long. I do apologize for that, and I didn't actually get to finish the dilemma and the problems that I was sort of ending this video with. I got called away from the train room about a week now. I have been busy doing commission, and I've also had a lot of revamping and redoing in my gallery in Higher Than my studio space. So that really has kept me busy all week, and I've still got another day on it tomorrow. But that said, I do hope to get back up here very, very soon. And I suppose in a little way I've also been a bit of procrastination going on with this, because it is taking me out of my comfort zone. I've got to say, I'm normally quite happy laying track. But this one is proving a little bit awkward because of the split in the boards and the direction that the trains are going and the points and the positions with stuff underneath and all that. So you've seen it, and if you've got any ideas about it, then put them in the comments section underneath this video. I really would appreciate it. I may not use them and I may be thankful for them, I don't know, but you know, if you've got any thoughts about it, having seen the video, then please let me know. But I do have to bite the bullet soon. I want to get back up here. I want to progress this round beyond this point. This is becoming a little bit of an Achilles heel. I thought the harbour scene was, but this one is taking over the limelight in that regard right now. Anyway, but it is more about the geometry. Will it work coming out of that lift out section? It's got to work, and it will work at some point, but how? I'm not quite sure yet. That all said, I'm going to wish each and every one of you all the best. Take care, have fun with your own trains. I'm going to catch each and every one of you, I hope, in episode 10 of Sandling Junction's build. And until that time, don't forget, please subscribe. If you feel I've earned your subscription, that would be great. Like, comment and share, all of those things. I'll catch you all very, very soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.